are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com and at Yahoo Sports Australia. And you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today we are rounding out the Northwest Division in the Western Conference, looking at the dynasty value of players on the Portland Trail Blazers. Michael Bolton.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it indeed. And the Blazers aren't a team that's necessarily flush with huge big-time prospects, but there are at least a few interesting guys, some starters, some rotation players that are worth looking at. And the first one of those is a guy who was really primed for a bit of a breakout this season, and that is Zach Collins. Entered the season as their starting power forward, played 3 games and wasn't seen after that. He suffered that shoulder injury. He looked like he was going to come back maybe in March, but only 3 games of action from Collins. He's 22 years of age. He averaged 9 and 4 during that time, a 3 a game, 0.7 blocks, 47% from the field, but it is hard to get a full read on what Collins was going to be able to do. Now, last season, in only 17 minutes a night, he was almost a top 250 player, and in terms of per 36 numbers, he averaged 14 and 9 with almost 2 blocks and over a 3 on a true shooting of 56. His true shooting this season in that limited sample was up to 62%. I think he does have some upside to be a roundabout top 100 sort of a player. He's going to be paired most likely next season with Jusuf Nurkic. Now, his best position is center. I don't think it's power forward, but they don't really have an abundance of other options there at power forward. But if they brought someone else in as a free agent who was a power forward, then Collins' role would be in trouble. Overall, I do think he does become a starting center in the NBA, but with Nurkic there now, maybe that's 5 years away for Collins. That would help his field goal percentage, his rebounding, and his blocking. That would boost his overall fantasy value. But now the way we look at it, a guy that came in with limited minutes at Gonzaga, but some pretty strong numbers, good three-point shooting, good rebounding, good shot blocking, all those things look pretty solid. We haven't seen it fully erupt yet in the NBA. But I think that we should be looking at him as probably a max best case scenario top 80 player, but worst case scenarios is like top 120. So he's got a nice 5-year, top 120 sort of value career ahead of him, I think, Zach Collins. Not sure he's ever going to push up big or be a 35-minute-a-night guy or block 3 shots or average 20 points, but just produce solid sort of numbers across the board. Good true shooting, block shots, hit 3, score a little bit, rebound a bit, and just be a really solid player. But I think the key to unlocking his potential is him being a center, and that looks to be a little bit of a distance away. Let's talk about this bloke now.
Nice, Gary!
Gary Trent. We barely saw Trent last season. In fact, he played only 15 games last season. In fact, that was a total of 110 minutes only. He is up over 1,000 minutes this year, 20 minutes a game, 53 games. Now, he's averaging only 8 points so far, but over the last 24 games of the season, Trent was playing 28 minutes a night. Some of that was without Lillard, and McCollum was injured during periods of that as well. 28 minutes, 12 points, 2 threes, and a steal. True shooting of 58%. Really strong numbers. Now, not much else. Very, very low rebounder. Extraordinarily low in terms of assists. Doesn't block shots. Doesn't get to the line. So one of those guys where you look at the production, you go, shit, 27th of February, 20 points, 4 triples against the Pacers. That's pretty good. 24 points against the Magic. Looks pretty good. But what the hell else is he doing? And when the shots aren't falling, and when the usage isn't that high, he's unlikely to be a good fantasy player. So he's one of those players who's playing well, can be absolutely a rotation sort of guy, but outside of scoring, what else is he doing? Now, at some point, CJ McCollum is not going to be good anymore. I don't know when that's going to be, 4 or 5 years. Definitely within his current extension contract, he's not going to be good. And Trent could ascend into that role. But I just don't know if he's got that volume scoring ability paired with CJ's ability to get some assists and even rebound, all right? But Trent does none of that sort of stuff, which gives me some concern about his overall fantasy value. But he's been impressive this season. There's no doubt about that. And I think he's a strong rotation player and actually can be a starting caliber guy. But contributing across multiple categories is going to be the downfall. His PIPM is not that great, but it's better than most of the bench players that he plays with. Negative 2.74 defensively where the real issue is. And he's a minus 4.9 on-off. Again, much better than some of those other bench guys like Mario Hezonja or Anthony Tolliver and another guy that we're going to talk about who's been unbelievably disappointing this season. But Trent's shown enough. He's shown enough to be a rotation guy. He's shown enough to be, I think, he could have a top 100 season, maybe. I think he's more likely to be that 120 to 170 sort of guy if he is a 30-minute-a-night player, not ever pushing into the top 50 or top 60 zone. But really good stuff from him to improve as much as he did this season. This is the guy that I want to talk about because he has been shit. Absolutely shit for Anfernee Simons. Has not been good at all. We thought, and the Blazers were hyping him up to a level that I didn't really think was necessary, but hey, they saw him. Never seen anyone as talented as this guy. That was the nonsense coming from O'Shea, and he's been a flop. Now, he isn't even 21 years of age yet, so he's still really young, but 21 minutes a night, 9 points, 40% from the field, no assists, no rebounds, no steals, low three-point volume, doesn't get to the line. On-off stuff is horrendous. The PIPM is a negative 11 on-off. That is really, really bad. PIPM is a negative 5.54. That is really in worst player in the league territory. Kevin Knox looks at that and goes, shit, man, you're struggling. Negative 2.61 wins added. They are really rough numbers from Simons. Now, he shows flashes, and to a degree, there's a similarity with Trent because he goes out there and he has these moments and he scores. And you go, oh, look at that, Anfernee Simons scored. He put this little run on and scored big points. He had this 3-game run in the end of December where he scored double digits in high minutes. And you go, oh, look at that. Okay, Simons is cracking. He had a 20-point game early in the season. Oh, look at that. But what the hell else does he do? Can he defend? No. He's one of the worst defenders in the NBA at this point. Can he distribute? Not even close. Can he hit threes in large volume? Can he get to the line? Like, all of these things are no's. And the games where he has these big scoring nights is on 70% shooting, 67% shooting, 55% shooting. And then the other nights are completely rough. He's very inconsistent. But if we're going to look at him now, the dynasty value is rock bottom. Now, this has taken a lot of shine off Anfernee Simons to me. We liked him, the athleticism, the unknown. We didn't see him in college. Hey, what can this guy do? Showed some flashes. Plus, you're hearing the collective Portland front office / fan base Dutch ruddering so much that he's probably going to need a skin graft. That's how hard the Dutch ruddering was. And you go, okay, well, let's buy into it. The athleticism, he can take over, all this sort of stuff, but it's not there. It just isn't. We just haven't seen it from Anfernee Simons at all in 2 years. Barely played in his first season. We saw him at the end of that first season have that 37, 6, and 9 game, and you go, all right, let's go. I understand the hype. That's where it is. Let's go. And then he's done nothing. It's a real worry. Now, he is one of those players, again, that because he does nothing else, he gets no steals, he gets no blocks, he gets no rebounds, he gets no assists, he doesn't get to the line, the three-point volume's low, that even if he somehow worked into a 32, 30-minute-a-night, 33-minute-a-night player, is he ever going to be good? Or is he just going to be someone out there that's jacking shots and not doing too much else? Very Jamal Crawfordish, in my opinion, in terms of fantasy value. So, does he have more upside than Trent? Probably. I still believe that. Does he look to be more of a... where's the floor? I think Trent's is higher. I'm not convinced Simons is ever going to be a starting point guard now in this league or shooting guard. And I don't think he's ever going to be a top 100 fantasy guy, unfortunately. The future projection PIPM stuff is real rough. His best season, according to that metric, which has a lot of holes in it, of course, is negative 3.04. That's his best season. It does not look good at all. His wins added stuff is completely rough. This was his opportunity to really step up. And this is only his second season. He's not even 21. You know, I'll give guys at least 3 seasons, probably 4 seasons. But if nothing changes from Simons next year, I'm pulling the plug. Because it was a real opportunity. He was given absolutely first shot. They didn't even sign anybody else. You are our backup point guard. We want to play you 25 minutes a night. And they started and they went, oh, actually we don't. We don't want to do that at all. Sorry, mate. Let's get someone else in like Gary Trent, who's playing at a solid enough role. I know I sound harsh on Simons, but he just hasn't been good. It's as simple as that. Speaking of not good, Caleb Swanigan, a player who, remember in his summer league, people were, they were pumped. Swanigan, yeah, look at this guy, Summer League MVP, he's going to be awesome. Going to reach for him in my dynasty drafts. I was not in on him at all. I think that's been proven correct. He's averaging 10 minutes, 2 points, 4 rebounds. not shooting free throws well. He doesn't block shots. He doesn't fit the modern NBA, in my opinion, at all. He started with Portland. He went to Sacramento. He's back in Portland now. He barely plays. He shouldn't be a rotation guy, and he won't be when Zach Collins returns. He just isn't good. I think that's where we're at with what's his name? Caleb Swanigan. I just don't see what is good about him at this point, unfortunately, because he's that guy that rebounded a lot in college, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything in the NBA. Some really bad PIPM numbers, negative 2.81 there as well. On-off is relatively negative. I just don't think he's ever going to be a starting player, and I reckon he's got 2 years left in the NBA max. He's just not an NBA caliber player, in my opinion. Nassir Little is an interesting one. The first-round pick from the Blazers this season. Horrible in college. Really good rebounder. Horrible in other areas. Came in here and then became the starter at power forward when Collins went down after they went with Hazonia for a bit. And then they started Nassir Little. And then Carmelo Anthony came in and limited what Nassir was able to do. Now, he has been bad. The 415th ranked player this season, 3.6 points in 12 minutes, 43 and 64% shooting, 24% from three, a true shooting of 50%, low steals, low blocks. Even on a per 36 basis, the steal and block numbers are rough. 0.9 blocks per 36. That's not too bad. But the high rebounding numbers from college haven't come. Under 3 per game per 36, 7 rebounds per 36, 11 points per 36. It's all been pretty rough so far for Nassir Little. I think there is some hope for him. I would have liked when the season started going down the toilet that they really invested in developing him. And I think there's much more upside in him than someone like a Caleb Swanigan. And I think you could make an argument that there is more upside, at least from a fantasy point of view, than an Anfernee Simons. If they were to play equal minutes moving forward, I think Little might be the preferable option. Now, I think his overall ceiling is much lower than Simons's, but he showed some flashes to me earlier this season that I thought, or maybe he can be at least a serviceable player who can come in and be your 14-9 guy if he plays 30 minutes. But I don't think he's really ever going to get an opportunity to play 30 minutes, unfortunately, for Nassir Little. I do think he's about 3 or 4 years away, and I have more faith in him longer term than I do with even a Simons or any of these other guys like Swanigan or some of the other players I'm about to mention coming after this. But Little is not someone that I'd look at and go, well, he was the 3rd ranked player in his high school class. He's going to turn it around. I don't believe that is the case. I think we look at him as, at best case scenario, a starter due to injuries, but more likely a 9th man for a few years, and maybe that gets him into the top 200. But there is still a level of upside with him. The shooting is just absolutely rough as shit at this point for Nassir Little. Another player that came across from the Sacramento Kings in that Trevor Ariza deal was Yin Gabriel. Gabriel was a draft eligible player last season and didn't start in the NBA until this year. He averaged 7.5 minutes a game, 2 points with almost 2 rebounds on 44 and 70% shooting. Nothing overly standing out there. 10 and 8 per 36. Decent enough steal numbers though for him. And I think he does have a little bit of upside as a contributor. Even just look at what he did in the G League this season. 19 points. This is only in 7 games, mind you. 19 points, 9 rebounds, 2 blocks, shot 46% from 3. And if we take it back to his entire G League career, because he played last season in the G League as well, that's 49 games. He's averaged 11 points in 21 minutes. Actually, he's got per 36 in the G League. 19 and 12 per 36, 2 blocks and a steal, shooting 38% from 3, 77% from the line. That's definitely intriguing for Gabriel. I don't know that he's ever going to be a good enough player to be a starting caliber guy, but there are a few signs there. The high shot blocking, the good 3-point shooting, pretty decent volume scoring, solid enough rebounding from Gabriel that makes me think in the right circumstance, I think he's probably got a higher upside. The Little one's an interesting one. I think he's got a chance to have better seasons than Nassir Little in the future, but he is also a couple of years older. He's 23 while Little's only 20. Gabriel's shown those flashes. That shot blocking 3-point shooting flash is intriguing enough for me to go, well, I like it. I like it way more than Caleb Swanigan. Is there a chance that he's better than, say, a Simons? It's a marginal chance, but he's not a complete write-off to me when we look at his value as we move forward. I think he's been okay enough this season, and a player that could find himself in an energy 9th, 10th man role, block some shots in limited minutes, score a little bit, good rebound rate. There's enough there with Yin Gabriel where I look at him and go, well, I don't think he's a complete write-off at any point at this stage. And that block percentage and the three-point rate and the three-point shooting and the true shooting are all really, really encouraging numbers for him. The next guy we talk about, one of the two-way players on this team, is Jalen Hoard. Jalen Hoard is a 6'8 forward. He's from France. He has not played much in the NBA. 13 games, 8 minutes with 3 points, 47% shooting so far this season. Yeah, limited sample size here for Hoard so far. But he's not someone that we completely write off. Let's look at what he did in the G League. He's played 24 games in 28 minutes, 16 points, 7 rebounds, shot only 22% from 3 and 61 from the line. That is the concern there. But the scoring volume is okay. It's just that shooting. Now, can he develop into something a little bit more? Despite shooting just 22% from 3, his true shooting is 59% because he's hitting twos at a really, really strong rate. So that's, I guess, an encouraging sign. I'm not really looking at Hoard to be someone who is a long-term option really for any team. Could he be someone that can convert into a full-time contract? I reckon there's a marginal chance at that. But in saying all of this, his PIPM future projection stuff is really encouraging. Offensively a positive, defensively a positive. Again, if we're throwing some darts at players, Hoard and Gabriel really stand out to me as players who have got some of that upside on this squad. Whether it gets realised is probably not going to happen. But enough there as a wing who's scoring at a decent efficiency, and if you can provide some defensive value, which we're not quite there on him yet, but I think he's shown enough defensively to be solid in that area. I think Hoard's at least a name that we keep our eye on. The last guy we want to talk about is another player who's a two-way guy, a big man, Moses Brown. He's 20 years of age. He only played 3 minutes a night this season, 1 point and 2 rebounds. Unbelievably horrible free throw shooter, 38% from the line. In the G League, he's played only 19 minutes a game. He's averaged 14 and 8 though in 19 minutes, which on a per 36 basis is 27 and 14, and that should absolutely make not only your ears prick up, but maybe your dick as well, because that is big per 36 numbers. 2.5 blocks, also pretty strong. Now, 54% free throws is rough. 65 from the field is good. He doesn't shoot threes. Defensively, he still has some concerns, but those numbers are absolutely something that you at least want to keep your eye on. He's massive. He's 7'2". Now, he does have some movement concerns in terms of that size and slowness defensively, but I'd like to at least see an opportunity to him to get maybe in a 3 or 4 game run of playing 10 minutes and see what he can do, because those G League numbers are absolutely interesting. Now, the other interesting part is he only played 9-10 minutes despite being that productive. He did average 2.7 fouls, which is 5 fouls per 36, so that is a massive concern there as well. But this Blazers team, for all of these names that aren't really, the highly regarded guys is Simons, Trent, but players like Little and Gabriel and Hoard and Brown, there's a little bit there, a little bit to not completely write them off. Brown was one of those players that when he didn't get drafted, he was in his college translations. He came out really good, and I went, okay, something to look at with the high blocking, with the rebounding, with the decent scoring and the efficiency. There's something there. And again, his future PIPM stuff is relatively encouraging. Never going to be a starter, I don't think, but as a backup center, a guy that could maybe block you 1.5 shots in 15 minutes and get 7 rebounds, I don't think that's completely outrageous. He's got a long way to go, no doubt about that, but someone who I would at least like to keep around my program for a couple of years to see what he can do. And the Blazers do really believe in their player development. I'm a little bit skeptical on that given the way Simons has gone this year, but again, Trent was a pleasant surprise, and we're working with second-round guys, two-way guys, late first-round guys here, and turning them into some players. So there's enough here for me to look at these players and go, well, I don't think we should write them off. Caleb Swanigan, write him all the way off. No problem with that. Simons, not writing him off yet. Trajectory is not good, but a little bit else there. Now, in terms of who do I like the most out of Brown and Gabriel and Little and Hoard, it probably still is Little. It's probably then Gabriel, and then maybe we go Brown and Hoard down after them, but I still don't think that they're complete write-offs as NBA prospects and fantasy basketball contributors, especially Brown, whose game is really fantasy-friendly in a punt free throw scenario. That'll do it for me today on the Blazers. Dynasty Watch. Let me know which division you want me to attack next when looking at these. I have done what divisions have I done so far? I've done the Central Division. I have done now the Northwest Division when looking at these teams. I have also done the Southeast Division. So that's 3 divisions done, 3 divisions to go. Let me know which one you want, Pacific, Southwest, or Atlantic Division. Drop that in the comments or tweet it at me at redrock_bball. Make sure after you finish this episode, you tell your smart device to play today's episode of Locked On NBA. Also, we've got Chad Ford's NBA Draft, Big Board, and Rejecting the Screen, and Hollinger and Duncan, some big name shows on the Locked On Podcast Network. Subscribe to this show so you never miss an episode. Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube. Give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. Tell all of your friends. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.